I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Other Post-Employment Benefits Trust Fund. Today is May 22nd, and we're in the Sierra Room of the Community Center. Could we have a roll call, please, for the record?
Chairperson Robertson.
Present.
Vice Chairperson Paulson. Trustee Gower.
Here.
Quorum is present.
It's now item number 3, public comment. Anybody? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4. This is for possible action, approval of the minutes from February 14th, 2018. Has everyone read the minutes?
Yes.
Any changes or comments, questions? Then a motion is in order.
I motion to approve the minutes of the February 14th, 2018 Other Post-Employment Benefit Trust Board.
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 3-0. Item number 5, for possible action, adoption of the agenda for today's meeting. Does anyone have any changes or modifications?
No.
Then a motion to approve?
I motion to approve the agenda for the May 22nd OPEB meeting.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. So moving on to item number 6A, for possible action to review and approve the OPEB Trust Earnings Report for the third quarter for the fiscal year 2018. So we will have staff present that report. Sherry Russell, please.
Of course, Madam Chair. So the earnings report is not looking as sunshiny this quarter. Our BIF is a little down. I think we all know the market's been a little in flux lately. So last quarter, we had about a 6% return on investment, and we're at 5.1 for the year now. We did lose about 20 grand in earnings with the February and March earnings report from our BIF. So hopefully that'll recover by the end of the year. But that's where we're at the end of the third quarter.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay. Motion?
I move to approve the OPEB Trust Earnings Report for the third quarter of fiscal year 2018.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Item number 6B for possible action is to review and approve the OPEB trust activity for the third quarter of fiscal year 2018. Sherry?
Yes, Madam Chair. So we paid audit fees. We had our audit completed, actually, and I have that report. It's the next agenda item. The rest is pretty normal. We just had our monthly revenues and expenses, a few changes in retirees, so there are, some flux up and down here and there, but at the end of the day, when you take into account the flux from one month to the next month, it really should net to zero by the end of the year, once those corrections are made each month. There is something on here, the city contribution, which isn't typically on here. It's $200,000. This is a result of the audit. So GASB 74, which we'll get into when we get into the audit a little more in the next item, does not allow you to book a receivable unless it is legally restricted. And budgeted does not qualify as legally restricted. So it is budgeted in the 570 fund that the city will give us that $200,000. However, and we did initially have it as a receivable. However, GASB 74 did not allow that, so it's actually a contribution in the current year instead of last year.
I'm glad you explained that, because I was looking at this going, what the heck? But then I,
So
then when I
yeah,
got
so
to the
that's our
statements, I
current year
saw it.
contribution, yeah.
Okay.
So, and as you can see, the interest decline is represented here too. Our assets are under $1 million again. They were, last month when I reported them, they were over $1 million. I was very excited. They're a little under $1 million thanks to our earnings losses in the last couple months. But I do believe those will recover by the end of the year.
So the 200,000 was budgeted in fiscal 17, right? But because we didn't do it until after the end of the year, then
That
it's
is
considered.
correct.
And then, when will we do the contribution for fiscal 18? Will we do that before year end?
For fiscal year 18, I am planning on doing that before year end.
Okay.
Before the fiscal year end or calendar?
Fiscal year. So before June 30th, yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, does anyone want to make a motion?
I move to approve the OPEB trust activity for the third quarter of fiscal year 2018.
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries 3-0. So our next agenda item, item 6C, is for possible action to accept the Carson City, Nevada OPEB Trust Fund's audited financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2017. So Sherry, can you walk us through that, please?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. So I first want to walk you through the financial that I gave you, and then we'll go through the letters from the auditors. So first off, on page 3 is the MD&A, which is a high-level explanation of what's occurred during the year. It's a high level, and it's supposed to be more reader-friendly. So if you're not a numbers person, page 3 is for you. On page on page 5, I just wanted to point out that the MD&A is comparative. And so there's the prior period adjustment in the MD&A where we took that 200,000 out, and it'll show up in 18. So the 200,000 is still in RBIF, it just won't show up in our financials until 18. So let's see, so our total net position on page 6 is, for the audit, was only 756,715. Again, we had to take out that 200,000 and put it in 18 with GASB 74. And then on page 7, this breaks out your earnings and your benefits. And typically our benefits are quite a bit higher because they're the insurance premiums for all the retirees. So last year it was over $1 million. And the reason it's declined is another little quirk of GASB 74 is that you can't include insurance premiums that the employees are paying for. So there's no employee contributions in here, and there's no premiums. So they've netted that out. I don't know where GASB nets anything, but here they've decided to net that. There is a note in the back when we get to the notes, page 10, that shows you the total premiums for retirees that we did pay. With a little schedule showing the minus retiree
The
contributions.
1.2 million is
Yes.
actually the total
That's actually what we
premiums.
paid.
Okay.
Yeah. And since we're there, page 8 is the notes, is where the notes start, and this is, again, more detail about what the financials, what's in the financials. Page 11 has our total liability. So at the bottom of page 11, our total actual OPEB liability is $66,567,575. However, we have saved $756,000, which is not a lot, but as we continue to grow the OPEB trust, the liability that we have to report on the city's CAFR will decrease to $65,810, $860 this year, and then in future years, as we contribute to the trust and it gets bigger, that number will decrease. One thing GASB 74 did that I really liked was on page 12 and 13, it's got the sensitivity to the discount rate and the health trend rate. So it's got our liability that we owe there in the middle, and then it's got what happens if the discount rate increases 1% or decreases. So it just shows the volatility of that rate that our actuary is using. And same thing with the healthcare cost trends. The schedules in the back, the RSI schedules, changed pretty significantly as well. So on page 15, it's kind of showing what the liability is, what all the costs entail, what our actuary told us the liability is, what the plan has in it. It's just more detailed information. And then it also gives us the percentage of the total liability compared to the net position of our plan. All of these supplemental schedules will end up being 10 years, but we'll have to build from now forward.
So we're really only at about 2 years right now. Is that right?
Well, because this is GASB 74, the information wasn't available last year. So these will build forward from 17 forward. Yeah. Page 16 is basically what the actuary says we should be contributing. The actuary has a 30-year time frame. So they say that, we need to build this $65 million within 30 years to fully fund our OPEB. Well, we're going to probably not owe that whole $65 million in 30 years because people work here for 25 or 30 before they retire. So that's a really narrow time frame to have it fully funded. So we're not fully funding our actuarial determined contribution. So this is what, this just shows us how much we are funding of the actuarial determined contribution. And then the last page is just our rate of return. And it's money-weighted rate of return, so it's a little different than the actual year-end rate of return.
Do you remember how much is budgeted to go in there for fiscal 18?
For fiscal year 18, I know it's over 200,000.
Okay.
But I'm not positive as to if it was 275 or 250 or.
Okay.
So Eide Bailey did their audit, and they issue us 2 letters this year. They issued us 2 letters this year. The 260 letter, and it's called the AUC 260 and AUC 265. I tried to figure out what AUC meant, and I was like, didn't have time this morning, so it's just the report name. But anyway, so the letters, basically, the first letter is kind of a management. It's a standard letter that they give all of their clients. It tells you the timing and the scope, any significant estimates, which our OPEB liability is a very significant estimate. If they encountered any problems during the audit, which they did not. They also mentioned 2 misstatements that were corrected. So this is the beginning fund balance, the $200,000 that they reclassed as 2018 contributions. And the initial reason that was not adjusted is because I presented the financials as 1 year, and the only thing that was presented as comparative was the MD&A. So the auditor thought because it was comparative in the MD&A, we need to do the prior period adjustment. So we did do the prior period adjustment. The plan member contributions was also noted as a corrected misstatement, and this was removing those plan member employee contributions or retiree contributions and reducing the insurance premiums. Because, again, the standard was very silent as to what you did with employee contributions. And it was in the implementation guide, one little question that said, you net them. So I missed it during implementation, and the auditors let me know. The auditors actually had to call GASB and have a discussion with them because they weren't sure either. So this was a challenging year, a challenging standard, and I missed a few things. But all in all, we did get them fixed and corrected.
I think that's pretty normal when you're implementing such a big change in a standard.
Yeah.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah. The letter goes on to say there's no disagreements with management, and we didn't consult any other auditors for second opinions or anything. And that's about it for that letter. The second letter does go into more detail about the 2 findings, and that the auditors did consider it a material weakness in the financial statement preparation. So, in the future, we'll look at having a little more in-depth review when we have a big standard like this. Potentially call GASB ourselves if it's going to result in a finding. So.
But just for the record, though, this finding doesn't affect their opinion. It's still a clean opinion.
Yes, it's still a clean opinion. And that's it, unless there were any questions.
questions for
So
me.
if there's no questions, do we have a motion to accept this report?
I move to accept the Carson City, Nevada OPEB Trust Fund's audited financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2017.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. So our last item, no, not quite. Item number 6D for possible action is to schedule our next meeting of the OPEB Trust Fund.
I may have to confirm this with April, but we were looking at August 28th, if that works for everybody.
I may be out of town that day, but yeah, let's go ahead and, that's okay. What time?
Okay. 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And I'll confirm
Okay.
that with the three of you once I confirm it with April, because I'm not sure the room's available. Initially, I had August 14th, but before the meeting, I was informed Cindy was going to be out of town that day, so we're checking with April to see if August 28th will work.
Do we need a motion to put that date out there?
You don't need a motion to establish the calendar date.
All right, so one final call for public comment. Seeing none, then our next item would be possible action to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the May 22nd meeting of the OPEB Trust Fund Board of Trustees.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 3-0. We're adjourned.